All right. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Party Lines. My name is Ethan Shea.
My name is Vidyuth.
And today we're bringing you a bit of a different episode. Now, I know we had a plan to talk about all the important executive orders this episode, but a lot of things have happened since last time we recorded back in August. And my new partner Vidyuth and I felt that it would be important to talk about the government shutdown given everything that's happened since October 1st. Just for date, right now is October 22nd. Also, you might be asking yourself, what happened to Michael? And I'll let him tell you himself.
Hello, this is Michael Wibichet. I was one of the co-hosts for Beyond the Party Lines, an amazing podcast created by Wenshi. And I just wanted to report the fact that I will no longer be doing the podcast due to specific academic reasons and having to allocate time to sports and whatnot. But nevertheless, I do believe that this podcast is a great podcast and will be still run by a great administration such as Wenshi. And I heard Luke Shahid is joining it, so that's a great ad as well. Yeah, so watch the podcast, stay tuned, and stay tuned for mock trial as well in the South Shore. Thayer is going to be Milton High, which is the high school that Wenshi goes to. Yeah, we're going to win it all.
Now that we've just that, we can jump right in. Today's episode will have only one topic, the government shutdown.
So, here's the current situation. The United States government has now been shut down for 22 days as of recording, making it the current second longest funding lapse in U.S. history. The standoff between Democrats and Republicans centers on healthcare subsidies tied to the Affordable Care Act. Democrats want to make sure that these insurance tax breaks are permanent, while Republicans, led by President Donald Trump, insist that the issue should be debated separately from the broader budget negotiations, according to USA Today. Approximately 750,000 federal workers are currently furloughed, while essential personnel, including military and law enforcement, continue to work, some without immediate pay. Critical programs such as SNAP for food assistance and Head Start could face major disruptions in early November if the stalemate persists. A government shutdown is essentially what it's named for. The government is shutting down. Surprise, surprise. Now, of course, there are some short-term rainy day funds, but for many programs, these short-term funds last only a few weeks. A shutdown occurs when parties in Congress fail to negotiate on acceptable terms to pass appropriation bills or temporary funding extensions before the fiscal or financial year deadline. The U.S. fiscal year deadline is on September 30th every single year, and appropriation bills are bills where Congress decides to spend the Treasury funds every year, from healthcare to the Department of Defense, whatever they decide.
So, you may have heard about the government default in 2023, and that is different from right now. In a default crisis, the Treasury has hit its debt ceiling set by Congress, and in January 2023, that debt ceiling was hit, prompting the Treasury to take, quote, extraordinary measures to avoid defaulting on its interest payments that it owes. In 2023, the debt limit was $31.4 trillion, and Congress quickly passed a bill essentially kicking the can down the road for 2 years until January 2025, where on the second of the month, the debt ceiling was raised to $36.1 trillion. A government shutdown, as we already stated, is when a new bill that appropriates or distributes funds between various government programs and agencies cannot be agreed upon by both parties in Congress. So, just some history, some past government shutdowns in recent memory, according to CBS News. These are all post-1980. And I'm going to read through them a little quickly. Ready? All right. November 20, 1981, the shutdown was caused by Reagan's veto, lasted 2 days. November 30th, 1982, the shutdown was caused by social commitments in Congress, lasted 1 day. December 17th, 1982, shutdown caused by both parties refusing to negotiate, 3 days. November 10th, 1983, shutdown caused by Democrats adding more money to the bill, 3 days. September 30th, 1984, shutdown caused by both sides, they kicked the can on the road, 2 days. October 3rd, 1984, shutdown caused by Reagan's veto, leading to the Democrats caving, 1 day. October 16, 1986, shutdown caused by the Democratic demands, 1 day. December 18, 1987, the shutdown was caused by both sides, 1 day. October 5th, 1990, shutdown caused by George Bush's veto, 3 days. November 13, 1995, shutdown caused by Clinton's veto, and this kicked the can down the road, 5 days. December 15, 1995, shutdown caused by both parties and Clinton's veto, 21 days. September 30th, 2013, shutdown caused by House Reps which refused democratic healthcare costs, 16 days. January 19, 2018, shutdown caused by democratic demands over immigrants, 2 days. December 21st, 2018, shutdown caused by Trump, who essentially wanted more money to hit the wall. Lasted 34 days.
Oh my god, did you see that Trump AI video?
Yes,
Hey, we
shitting on the Kings. That was
Crash out.
Okay.
It's about crash out.
That's
Okay. No.
As a person, I respect the humor. As a president, it's not. It's really not appropriate.
Even I don't know. I'm not trying to be biased, but like
You don't
that's such an immature joke. That's like a 6th grader making a joke. It's
And you're not supposed. And also, like, there's a certain amount of decorum associated with being president, and regardless of what the other side's saying, like if I think all across America, I believe it's the numbers. I'll record this. I'll do some research right now. How many people showed up across America
7 million.
to no Kings protests?
7 million. Give me that. 7
Nearly
million people.
7 million people.
7 million.
So this isn't a one crazy group of extremists. This isn't one.
I'm closing it.
I got it.
Continue.
This isn't one crazy group of extremists. This isn't one, people like a group of people saying radical ideas that are frankly ridiculous. This is 7 million people in America protesting peacefully, and as president, as a politician, it is your job to represent, especially with the United States of America. The president is supposed to represent all people. If 7 million of your citizens, not your citizens, if 7 million people who you have promised to serve as president are protesting actions that you are taking, that's not a light matter.
And there's 2 things I want to add to that. Number 1, there are people out there who did not show up to the protests who are actively against that. I know people who have, not been able to because they're my age or whatever it is. They are actively.
By the way, just a reminder, we're both high school seniors in Massachusetts.
And yeah, he's a moderate. I consider myself an independent, just to clarify. So I'm truly criticizing what I have in front of me.
All right. So that was a little bit of tangent on the No Kings protest.
A president, and it's been normalized. A president should not be posting AI videos on Truth Social.
It's been normalized.
It's
by Trump.
By Trump, and people on the right side have normalized this as well. It's a problem. Like you can go onto like CNN debates and see people like, oh, he's just it's funny. It's funny for a 6th grader. It's funny for
as a person. I can appreciate the humor. As a aspiring political scientist, I find it irresponsible and damaging to the image of the United States.
And not just internally, externally. He is actively. I really shouldn't do that.
It's fine.
Cut that out.
Speak your mind. No, speak your mind.
No, I'm not gonna.
No?
I'm trying to stay apolitical. I don't want to be.
No. Be political. This is the place for you to talk. If you have feelings, this is the place for you to talk.
I would say. Yeah, I mean, it looks bad internally, but it also looks bad externally. Like, you can see people around the world who look at this country and have started to lose respect for it. Like, I remember I saw a post a few weeks ago where it said the value of a U.S. passport is decreased.
Oh,
and
it has. It's been ranked. It's like ranked not very low, but it's way lower than it should be.
And there could be a slippery slope for all we know. Like this could be like, the start of something not good.
I don't know if this AI video will be the straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's I don't hold that. Okay, I won't say extreme, but my view does not go that far. I just believe that it's inappropriate for him to be saying these things.
It's not a problem; it's a symptom of a problem.
Actually, I had this curious thought a while ago that I would like to hear. If anyone is watching, hopefully someone's watching, I'd like to see this from you. Right now, by today's standards, by Donald Trump's standards today, would Ronald Reagan be considered a moderate? I would love to hear about this. But back to the topic at hand.
So, yeah. So Ethan listed off a long list of shutdowns in the past, assigning blame to either the Democrats or the Republicans. Not supposed to be aggressive, by the way. Just facts.
Oh, so actually, yes, that's a good point. I should clarify. When I assign blame to the to either party or the president for the shutdown. What I'm saying, and I'm not saying that they were right or wrong. I'm just saying it was their actions that caused the shutdown. For example, right now it is whether or not Democrats are right. I'm not saying anything right now, but the shutdown is being caused by the Democrats who have refused to pass it, even though the majority in Congress has passed it through filibusters, which we will get into later.
So, obviously, Democrats have actively refused to sign this bill, every single one. And now the question is, what do they believe? Why do they believe the other side is wrong? The Democrats frame this as protecting healthcare affordability for millions through subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. They're demanding the extension of tax credits for the ACA marketplace, which are set to expire at the end of 2025. Democrats argue that without action, insurance costs will significantly increase for millions of Americans. This, as well as reverse Medicaid cuts from an earlier GOP spending bill, as well as reverse federal worker firings, have led them to believe that it's best to not sign this. They don't believe that the Republicans will agree to their demands later on the ACA, so their only leverage that they can use at the moment is using the government shutdown. A few quotes from prominent members of the Democratic Party. First of all, AOC, who has been a large spokesperson for the Democratic Party after the shutdown. She says, quote, "This bill is going to devastate rural hospitals. I just want to know, like, are you worried about that?" A Republican in response states, quote, "Yeah, I just don't believe it. I know you guys need this to score political points." She acknowledges and asserts even that the data shows that this bill is going to devastate a lot of people. And she notices that the problem is that Republicans refuse to believe what the Democrats are saying. Just food for thought. Another member of two other members of the Democratic Party, the Senate leader Chuck Schumer, as well as the House leader Hakeem Jeffries, have said in a statement that Republicans do not want to protect the health care of the American people. Democrats remain ready to find a bipartisan path forward to reopen the government in a way that lowers costs and addresses the Republican healthcare crisis. But we need a credible partner. Instead, Trump is obsessively posting crazed deepfake videos.
Which we just covered 2 minutes ago. The No Kings protest. Alright, but I digress. Next, we can talk about the Republicans and their point of view. Now, Republicans emphasize their argument for fiscal responsibility and the need to separate budget talks from healthcare policy. They argue that the Democrats are giving, by passing these subsidies to the ACA, that the Democrats are giving free healthcare to illegal immigrants, and the Republicans call the bill a clean one, where it separates the discussion of healthcare funding for a later date that realistically may or may not come to fruition. Mike Johnson, quote, "They have bootstrapped that and put it into the September funding issue so they can show a fight against Republicans. It's all for political theater," end quote. New quote, "It's $1.5 trillion in new spending, which we cannot afford and won't do. And it includes $500 million to prop up left-leaning organizations," end quote. Next, Caroline Levitt. Quote, "We've seen the unfortunate consequence of that, where American patients are put last, where American patients are having to wait in wait rooms, where grandmothers and grandfathers are waiting hours and hours for care because they are being put behind the line of illegal," I don't believe this, I don't believe in this term, but this is a quote, "illegal aliens," and we don't agree with that, and we don't support that. Now, just to comment on that really quickly, I've noticed a lot of false claims coming from the Republican Party and especially members of the Trump administration. So, while this quote might seem like a very strong point for this, hard on immigration, not just criminals, I would take this with a grain of salt because I personally have not seen or heard of this anywhere else, and I like to think that I do my research well. And the military isn't being paid, air traffic control isn't being paid, etc. Lastly, quote, "Nearly 7 million mothers, infants, and low-income families who rely on government-run food assistance will be in jeopardy if the WIC, Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children program runs out of money in the weeks ahead. The National Flood Insurance Program is in danger of lapsing, which could leave families without necessary help if a disaster strikes and we are in the middle of hurricane season." Now, I also want to point out that the Camp Mystic floods happened a long time before this budget bill was introduced on the Senate floor, and I think that enough evidence has come out to say that warnings could have been issued and much more could have been done if they had not cut the funding of important weather organizations and warning systems in Texas. So that's my 2 cents. I believe that this statement is quite hypocritical, but this is just what members of the Republican Party are saying.
And I will also add to that, they didn't feel the same way. She had touched on the supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. She didn't feel the same way, and not a lot of the Republican Party felt the same way when they had cut 3 million plus people off of SNAP and 5 to 15 million people off of Medicaid.
I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right.
It's important to understand that they are using these points perhaps to appeal emotionally to, Republican voters, and it's working very well. And these are great points to understand, and ultimately we'll talk about this later. Programs like SNAP are starting to suffer and they're running out of funding. So ultimately, if the government doesn't start back up, they are going to lose funding and millions of Americans will be under threat. The only issue that I have is that they didn't bring this problem up when they had actively cut funding back when the Big Beautiful Bill was being proposed.
As we're kind of summarizing my opinion of the situation is where, in the modern day era, Democrats are basically arguing for, Democrats are basically arguing for all people living in the United States, documented and undocumented, while Republicans are operating under the statement that they only want to protect documented immigrants and citizens. First of all, there are videos and evidence of them trying to deport documented citizens, but that's for a later date. But they're saying that under that guise. But then they're only saying that because it's convenient, and they're playing on the emotions of the people. For example, Texas is a pretty Republican state, and I'm sure that there's been statements out in the media from Republicans saying that, Camp Mystic was a result of the illegal immigrants in Texas, where they siphoned funding, they siphoned resources, they cannot, deal with this. Where the Republican Party honestly did have the ability and means to prevent, not prevent the flood, but prevent the outcome of the flood, or the outcome that had on the lives of those campers at Camp Mystic. So I don't know if Vidyuth will agree with me on this, but it's quite a hypocritical stance to take. You defend the American people when it's in your interest, and when it's not, you focus on other topics. First of all, and I think I did a little research back a while ago. I think Trump ordered the FBI to, in New York, to basically take minds and boots on the ground off of work on terrorists and domestic terrorism, and into investigating Tesla vandalisms, which of course is before Elon Musk and Trump broke up, quite publicly, I'll admit. But stuff like that, where they say one thing, but their actions show another. And I am personally, we'll get into this later, but I'm personally of the opinion that if the Democrats, agree to the demands right now from the Republicans, that the ACA, that they will lose all leverage that they have, or most leverage they have on passing those subsidies of the ACA. Okay, and also, this is wild tangents, but back to Carolyn Leavitt. Whether or not she's allowed to say this under the Hatch Act is up for debate, but this quote clearly explains the sentiments of the Republican Party and the Trump administration at this time.
So, we've talked about Carolyn Leavitt, we've talked about we've talked about the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, and their ideas of what it means to have a government shutdown at this time, what they're arguing for. And we've also listened to Carolyn Leavitt, a member of the executive branch, her thoughts on the matter. So let's look at other opinions, specifically from the executive branch, that also follow that kind of rationale. So, for example, Trump back in 2013 said, quote, "I hear the Democrats are going to be blamed, the Republicans are going to be blamed. I actually think that the president, Obama at the time, will be blamed." If there is a shutdown, I think it would be a tremendously negative remark on the President of the United States. He's the one that has to get people together. Today, as in this current day, she said, quote, "If there is a shutdown, it's only because of the Democrats. I really believe the Democrats want a shutdown to get off the subject of the tax cuts."
Back to hypocritical statements. Oh, shutdowns are a mark on the president. The president should solve them. And now he's refusing to negotiate with the Democrats and then just sitting there in the Oval Office, feet up on the desk. Not going to include this as too politically charged, but he's refusing to talk to Democrats, and he's at the same time going to the media to blame them.
Kristi Noem, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, says, quote, "Law enforcement officers will continue to work through the Democrats' shutdown to make sure our homeland is safe and secure," end quote. She also said, quote, "More than 200,000 of these patriots will go without pay. The Democrats will be forcing over 150,000 officers and nearly 50,000 members of the military to continue protecting our nation without pay," end quote.
And before we move on, I just want to say again, another tangent, sorry, but they've attempted, sorry, not they, let me define. The administration and the Republicans have attempted to place messages in large public areas, for example, like airports, like large train stations, train hubs, transportation hubs, all with a video of Kristi Noem blaming the Democrats and saying, I believe saying that illegal immigrants are going to come in and saying, quote, "Illegal immigrants will come in and will harm you. They will commit crimes here," as a result of the Democrats' refusal to negotiate with Republicans on this topic.
And this is illegal under the Hatch Act, by the way.
We believe we're not experts on this. We're not lawyers. Based on what our understanding of the Hatch Act, we believe that a lot of these statements from the executive branch are on the line of whether or not they are legal.
And another clarification point, the quote, "illegal immigrants are going to harm you and hurt you," that is largely untrue. Because, obviously, other than the fact that they have come into this country illegally, they don't commit crimes as much as people claim they do. They aren't that toxic to society. In fact, a lot of them have spent, 10, 20 plus years working at a farm or, having a labor job. They take up jobs that Americans don't have.
And don't want.
And it's incredibly important to the economy, which is a huge argument as to why, giving out mass amnesty and closing the border is a valid argument there. Obama, for example, conducted deportations under his presidency. 90% of the people he deported were criminals. That, I believe, is very fruitful because you were getting rid of criminals and you were not harming, the people with children who would lose their, family if the family were to be deported, or farmers who spent 10, 20 plus years contributing to the economy and paying taxes.
Yes.
In the last video, we talked about how much illegal immigrants pay taxes. Illegal immigrants alone pay $80 billion in taxes in 2022.
And also, on the subject of farmers, you can go out and see that plenty of farmers are releasing statements on how much yield of their farm they have lost simply because if they hired American workers under American wages, it wouldn't be worth the money to get the crop out of the ground. And so I think in the coming months and the coming weeks, we are going to see a harder hit on American produce. Now, of course, we do import a lot of produce, and that's I do cook a lot myself. Okay, tangent. I cook a lot myself, and there are a lot of times where I really do see the effect that exporting all our produce has. For example, I think there's a great guy who lives in Massachusetts. His name is Tackles the People, Michael Shu. His page is called Tackle to the People, and he basically talks about this subject where Americans will export tons of our fish, send it overseas, and we'll get other fish back in return. And those fish have been out for 2 weeks. So you may have heard that fish is only good for a day after you buy it. Only good for a day or two in the fridge. No, fresh fish. I bought fish from him before. Fresh fish from the ocean that he buys, he catches the day or two before, that has lasted a week in my fridge. No smell. I didn't need baking soda. It was there. It was in a plastic bag, and that was it. So, this is crazy. Okay, another crazy answer. But back to the farmers. It does make a difference. There are certain areas where we need undocumented immigrants, and you'll see. I've been saying undocumented immigrants here because I think we both believe that no person is truly illegal, right? Because you're born with natural rights. You're born with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, because of that, I believe that no human should be illegal, and that's why I continue to refer to them as undocumented.
I will say I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe that deportations are not ideal for America in general.
For the vast majority of the deportations that have happened so far.
And in general, obviously, Obama's deportations, I could see the justification there. I don't necessarily agree with him on that, but I see the justification. I don't see the justification, however, for Trump's indiscriminate deportation of illegal immigrants that have come into this country and documented citizens, not just Mexicans, but many others.
South Americans, Chinese. There's a lot. Even a couple months ago, there was a grad student at Tufts who was illegally arrested. There was a junior in high school, Massachusetts high school, volleyball player who was pulled over by the cops who were looking for his father, and the kid himself was taken into custody. He was on his way to school. He was a good kid. He went to school. I think he got decent grades. He played volleyball. He's an American kid. He's lived here pretty much all his life, and simply because of where he's born, they tended to drag him away until public outcry in the entire town, and I think a lot of the state came together and said, "Hey, this is not right. Bring him back." Now, do you have anything else to add? Okay,
we will fact check this, but I think that this points to an underlying rationale behind deportations. There was a law, this is to fact check, a law that was recently passed that allowed deportations for anyone based on the language that they're speaking, the color of their skin, something like that. I'm just gonna double check real quick, but I'm pretty sure this happened. It was originally unconstitutional, but then the Supreme Court overturned that, I believe. Yes. So
September 12th.
ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, said, quote, SCOTUS just gave ICE a green light to profile Latinos. That's the point I'm getting at.
That's not just ACLU, that's NPR, PBS, The Guardian,
Brookings,
American Immigration Council, BBC. A lot of the, especially the BBC and The Guardian are pretty, they're British. They don't have a horse in this race, and they're reporting on this, which means I think it is pretty big deal. But I think enough on immigration. Back to executive and the Hatch Act. It's my opinion that until Trump has the ability to either sign or veto the bill, he should stay out of it. This is a problem for the Capitol Hill, not the White House, and separation of powers between each branch is essential to the democracy of our government. And he's allowed to post whatever he wants on Twitter, but having Kristi Noem record that video and then send it out to airports and train stations and wherever else in the public eye is, I believe, in violation of the Hatch Act, and many experts have corroborated that. However, it remains to be seen whether or not they will be sued over those. I doubt it.
Yeah, it's probably not likely, but also, this idea that Trump shouldn't be involved, I 100% agree. That's obviously the case. To maintain proper checks and balances, something that this government in the United States is, praised for, we need to make sure that, affairs that are going on in other branches don't get involved. And, the violation of the Hatch Act is a great example, or the current violation of the Hatch Act is a great example of the issues that this can cause. And even more than that, I think, Trump had said it himself, it's on the President of the United States to take control of that and bring people together. Not necessarily to lead negotiations, but at least to bring peace between parties. Because at the moment, neither of them or I should say, the Democrats are unwilling to sign the current bill, and the Republicans are unwilling to negotiate. And so clearly they're at an impasse, and I believe that the president has the duty, not even the right, but the duty to come in and bring them together.
Actually, yeah, I'll speak my opinion. I agree with that. He should stay out of it politically. He should stay in, okay, not politically. He should stay away from making drastic political statements, but he should be involved in bringing both parties together. So I think that, this is rooted in okay, actually, yes. So
Cut.
there's
No, I think you should put this in the bill.
I think there's a line between saying you should pass this bill versus you should put this in the bill. You should pass this bill is what he should do. He should come together, bring everybody together, and encourage them to negotiate something to pass, not input his own opinion.
That's like that on the dot.
Yeah. All right. Next, the impacts of the shutdown.
So,
yes.
Overall, the general impact of the government shutdown is that programs funded by the government will lack the funds to continue their operations, including paying employees, as Chrissy Nolan touched on with the quote that we introduced before. USA Today very recently stated that the SNAP funding shortfalls will prevent full November benefits to 42 million American recipients if the shutdown continues. According to CBS and ABC, many states have stated that their funding for any SNAP programs will run out by November 1st. Head Start has claimed that 6 regional programs serving approximately 6,500 children are operating only through emergency local funding. By early November, 134 additional programs could close, impacting nearly 60,000 more children. NPR claims that the Women's, Infants, and Children program, serving 7 million mothers and children, is expected to run out of funds within weeks, what Caroline Levitt had touched on before. The USDA is attempting to sustain it temporarily using residual tariff revenue from last year, but the effort is uncertain. BBC News, the National Institute of Health, and the Center for Disease Control have all furloughed large numbers of staff, delaying clinical research, disease tracking, and public health initiatives. Smithsonian museums and other national institutions have remained closed due to lack of operational funds, and over 1.4 million workers are either on unpaid leave or working without pay, with over 900,000 formally furloughed across various agencies, including the IRS, Department of Agriculture, Education, Defense, etc.
So, services still operating. According to BBC, Social Security and Medicare payments are still being processed. The new verifications and card issuances are delayed because, the workers are furloughed. NBC says the TSA, Border Patrol, and law enforcement remain active but are working without pay, which causes staffing strains and air travel delays. BipartisanPolicy.org, active duty military are still working and with pay provisionally covered using $8 billion reallocated from Pentagon research funds. This is sufficient for only one pay cycle, and the pay cycle is every 2 weeks, and that was spent on November 15th. So the next paycheck is due before Halloween, and it's uncertain where that money will come from, or if it will come at all. Programs at risk of permanent damage. While most programs will recover once funding resumes, a few face irreversible impacts. Scientific and medical research projects dependent on continuous data collection and NIH and CDC risk and validation, as ongoing experiments and long-term studies cannot be paused and resumed without data loss because you cannot account for that. USA Today, Head Start centers and small nonprofit childcare providers may permanently close if local new emergency resources run out before federal reimbursements are approved. NPR, federal workforce reductions. The Trump administration's push to use a shutdown to justify layoffs of thousands of federal employees could result in lasting loss of institutional expertise, even if courts are currently blocking parts of the move. And overall, the shutdown's immediate effects are deepening across public health, education, and social services. If this extends into November, major nutritional aid programs and early childhood services may collapse beyond recovery for this fiscal year. So we just listed a bunch of impacts on what the shutdown will cause. My opinion is that A government shutdown is an indicator of a failed government. If either party has to hold pay away from federal workers who have had no direct part in the negotiations as opposed to normal negotiations in committees or hearings, then they are politically weak and morally compromised. The shutdown has and is currently impacting thousands of hardworking citizens that no matter which side you're on, it's inexcusable. I'm not only placing blame on Democrats or only placing on Republicans. This issue should have been brought up long before this, and it's on both parties for not resolving the issue before it affects their constituents.
The only thing I am going to disagree with that on is that I don't believe that it is entirely bad. Obviously, federal workers do not deserve to, suffer, and neither does, the millions of Americans suffering from not being able to gain, SNAP benefits or WIC benefits or whatever it is. But I also do believe that for Democrats at least, this is the only form of protest against what the Republicans are doing. And I would say it's as much on the Republicans, if not more on the Republicans, than it is on the Democrats for who's responsible for this. Because the Republicans have said time and time again, hey, here's the bill, I'm gonna leave it to you, sign it or nothing. I don't believe workers deserve to suffer the consequences of the government's indecisiveness, but I also don't believe that it's entirely bad. I think there is some good part to this, because Democrats are standing up and saying to the Republicans, listen, we're not going to take your demands. I know people are suffering, but we need to stand up for what you guys are doing. We believe what you're doing is wrong, and we believe we need to stand up to that. And I think there's some merit in that. I believe strongly that at the moment, Republicans are unwilling to negotiate. AOC, for example, has stated time and time again that they are willing to negotiate. Her, as well as the Democratic Party in general, as a whole. They are willing to negotiate. The only issue is that Republicans aren't. Republicans have said, hey, here's a bill. I want you to look at it and sign it, because I'm not willing to change this at all. I think that's wrong. I think in good faith, Republicans should come to the table with open negotiations and be willing to change it. And if you're going to blame Democrats for forcing millions and millions of Americans to, suffer from food insecurity, especially hard this November, I believe Republicans deserve some of that blame as well.
So, okay, just to comment on that,
Yeah.
I think that you're right in that Republicans and Democrats can stand up strongly for what they believe, and they should be able to, present their thoughts and take a stance. But there is a time and place, and the time and place is not the week before the deadline for the fiscal bill. I'm blaming both sides, and I'm saying that they should create. I'm going to speak again right now.
Yeah.
They should have done this earlier. It's their fault for not doing this earlier. It's the delay in our government, and it's the inefficiency. While it might have been designed by the framers, it's right now in the modern day, it is ludicrous because innovation has continuously outstripped policy for centuries even. So I think that there needs to be a large overhaul on how the government operates, because it's not working. Every 2 years we're hitting some sort of issue. I can almost guarantee it. Earlier when I read the previous shutdowns, I was shocked. Reagan had a shutdown pretty much every year in his presidency. It's ludicrous to me how Reagan has the most, Trump has the longest. He has the second longest too, and it's not.
It's not fruitful.
It's not fruitful, and it's on both sides for not. My point is, it's on both sides for not resolving this sooner. It's on Democrats for not bringing it up, and it's on Republicans for refusing to acknowledge it and just trying to push it past. Just for more context, because people might not understand. I thought the Senate was just a majority, 50-50, and the Republicans, some majority would win, and the Republicans have a majority. You'd be right in saying they have a majority, but the Republicans do need 60 votes. So. The Senate is set up in a way where they allow for unlimited debate on a bill, so a minority can block a bill from coming to a final vote by debating. So the Democrats can just continuously say, "Oh, we're not done talking yet. You can't vote." And this is called a filibuster. To end a filibuster in the Senate, they must invoke what's called a cloture, which is when they require a 3/5 majority or 60 votes. The cloture was a procedural rule of the Senate created in 1971. There is another option though. It's literally called the Senate nuclear option, where any one majority party can unilaterally lower the threshold for cloture to 51 votes or a simple majority. But if the Senate Republicans use this nuclear option to end the filibuster and pass this legislation for this new budget this year, it allows the Democrats to end Republican filibusters in the future. Senate Majority Leader John Thune has already stated that he will not use the nuclear option to end this filibuster. He is not willing to sacrifice, decades of Senate procedural precedent just for this bill. And I think I said this earlier, but if the Democrats fold to Republicans now on this bill, whatever subsidies, whatever they want on the ACA and others, they will not get passed. They will not be passed in the near future. The Republicans will continuously put it off. And I believe this if they were to make a stand, this is it.
So let's discuss whether or not Republicans would actually consider the legislation, even if the Democrats concede now. A, they have no reason to. Democrats have little to no leverage. B, the party is being led by Donald Trump, who's made a bunch of promises during his campaign that still have to be completed. And C, like ending both wars right now on day one, he said it repeatedly, and yet we are over 250 days into his second term, and it looks like neither war is even close to coming to an end.
The ceasefire, the amazing ceasefires he's negotiated in Gaza and he's about to negotiate in Ukraine, those have already been violated.
They did violate.
Those have already been violated.
And
he had little to no impact. Another example is he will lower inflation. He's been publicly flaming Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve, for refusing to lower, I believe it's the interest rate. And the way I understand it is that by lowering the interest rates, you allow banks to basically lend out more. Banks have more lending, and if you have studied the 08 recession at all, you know that the U.S. financial market and arguably the world operates on credit. Credit saying, I will give this to you, you give me this now, and I will take it and make more money with it, and I'll return it to you, and you make more money. So we both make money from this. So that's how credit runs the world right now. And with high interest rates, banks lend out less, means less credit in the market. So naturally, Trump's like, lower the interest rate. The problem is, if you do that, you will run into another issue like back in 08 where they had a similar situation, but all of a sudden, you give the money and I'll make more money from it and I'll give you back more money. All of a sudden, what happens if I don't give you back the money? The economy, super hyperinflation. It will be detrimental to the economy of the United States, especially after we've just recovered from COVID. So that is why Jerome Powell has refused to raise interest rates, but I think Trump significantly overstated, the effect that he would have coming into this office. Don't even get me started. We talked about immigration a lot today. Don't even get started. There's a ton more.
It's incredibly exaggerated, I will say.
Okay. So I wouldn't trust the Republicans to honor their word if they promise to discuss this legislation at a later date.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Are these new subsidies worth passing?
Obviously, capitalism and healthcare don't work well. I think we've seen that time and time again, especially, the United States is notorious for their very bad healthcare system that is very evidently exploitative of the working class and low income.
Ranked around the world, we are ranked extremely low in access, affordability, and efficiency of healthcare.
And Obamacare has been revolutionary in that idea, in transitioning to a method of, making up for that and insurance to make sure that people can get the healthcare that they deserve. I guarantee you, my parents even have not gone to the doctor because they know how expensive it can be. It is so incredibly important to get healthcare to everyone, and Obamacare was just an example of that. That's president.
Republicans continue to say that these subsidies will put undocumented immigrants in front of the U.S. citizens. The quote from Caroline Levitt earlier in the episode. But I have not, again, there's no evidence for when or where this has happened. For whatever reason, undocumented immigrants are human beings. So, back from break, we had to relocate a little bit. Apologies if the audio's changed. It's the best we could do. This is the best we can make on short notice. So, back to the topic. Undocumented immigrants are human beings, and they deserve to be treated as such. That's the last point I wanted to make. So, next, we can talk about... Oh. Okay, we're gonna cut that. Next, I believe that it's up to the Republicans to begin negotiations, because the only reason they're refusing to negotiate is because they hate the legislation the Democrats are trying to pass, and yet they refuse to talk about it at all. And honestly, it seems to me that they value opposing this legislation more than the thousands of American workers across the country who are working with limited or without any pay at all. And I believe that, they say they don't, but I think they are valuing this legislation and their image over these people.
And it's not just the thousands of federal workers, it's the millions of people who will not be able to, have proper food or, proper health care or just human rights, to be honest. And that should be a given in any country, let alone the United States of America, where we, cherish democracy and all of these things. And it's a land of opportunity. And to say that I want to look good in front of the Democrats and make them look like idiots, like own the libs, like that's stupid. It's like, for lack of a better word, Republicans.
It's superficial.
It's incredibly superficial, and it's frankly frustrating that millions and millions of Americans need to deal with, for lack of a better word, the immaturity of the Republicans.
AI videos.
Yeah. Don't even get me started.
Okay. Actually, this is important. This is one point I want to make before we close out the episode. Unless there's something more to say afterwards, but I want to mention that the AI videos, it's not just Trump. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom of California. No, it's you don't fight immaturity with immaturity. You don't fight fire with fire. Yeah. It's idiotic. It's idiotic, and like I said, it's funny to a certain point, because as a person I can appreciate the humor. But as an elected official, the governor of the most populous and the richest state in the entire country.
Oh my God, California.
You have the biggest responsibility of setting the tone, especially in the Democratic Party. And you are lowering yourself to the laughingstock of the Democratic Party.
He has consistently mocked Trump, and
Twitter posts in the same in the same format.
Just like Trump, it is funny to an extent, as Ethan has said time and time again. It is funny to an extent, but it gets to a point. You are elected to be the leader of millions and millions of people, and you choose to spend your time on making AI deepfake videos. I think that's important.
Now, there's a caveat for the fighting with fire claim, is that I do respect a lot when the Texas Republicans were trying to redraw the congressional lines in the middle of the decade, and it was agreed upon that we'll do it at the end of every decade. California's response to remove 5 Republican seats was a brilliant move. That move is politically savvy, and I respect it a lot. AI videos, not politically savvy. Okay.
It has risen Gavin Newsom to the top of the Democratic Party. People have looked. Obviously he's not a great person in general, but he's a leader who wants to fight back, and Democrats have been looking for a leader to be able to stand up to the Trump administration and the Republican Party as a whole.
This is not an endorsement for Newsom 2028. Not an endorsement for 2028 Gavin Newsom.
It's a fact. People have said consistently, oh, maybe Gavin Newsom would be a good presidential candidate, because people are looking for presidential candidates. At the moment, it's probably gonna be J.D. Vance or something that takes 2028 for the Republican Party.
Actually, we'll talk about this later because this is way too long already. But Trump has said that if he wanted to run in 2028, it would be possible. Constitutionally unviable, but I believe it's the 22nd. But after FDR, and FDR did a good job. But no, I'm not. I don't want to get into that today.
I mean, we praise the founding fathers so much, and George Washington did that for a reason, to set a proper precedent, and to see Donald Trump disobey that.
Yeah,
it's
like
it's a little
to have FDR, to have FDR kind of negate like not follow the precedent, while it was like he's no president, but he had a pretty. I would say the Great Depression was a pretty good reason to. I wouldn't say that the Democrats are a good reason to run for 4 terms, but I digress. Now, unless you have any other big issues, to close out the episode, I would end up with a quote from either side. Mike Johnson, quote, "There's nothing for us to negotiate. The House has done its job. The ball is in the court of the Senate Democrats," end quote. AOC, quote, "They need to pick up the phone, and it's not hostage taking if they refuse to clock in, right? We're all clocked in. We're all clocked in to do our job. They're not even here. They're not even here," end quote.
Everyone knows that a government shutdown is terrible for all parties involved, not just the Democrats or the Republicans, the entirety of America. Both sides can agree on that, I would hope. It's important to recognize that at the end of the day, both parties have the best interest of the American people at heart, we hope. They just disagree on how to materialize those interests.
And they need to keep that in mind when they go into that negotiation room and when they sit down and then negotiate respectively. Remember, this is and now we're speaking to the politicians directly. At the end of the day, you all want to see America succeed. We would hope. So give each other the respect that they deserve as your equals when you sit down at the negotiating table, because they are your equals. They have been voted in by citizens of the United States of America.
There is a modicum of respect that comes with that, and you need to uphold the responsibility that you've been given. To sit here and say, "I want to stop negotiating," is frankly, it's not good.
Be better. This has been Beyond the Party Lines, episode 3. Thank you for listening. They deserve to be treated as such. Healthcare is a universal constant.